there, folks. How's everybody doing in the CP Bio world? Today we got a set of cell membrane notes. This video will be broken down into 3 different parts. The first part today is slides 1 through 12, and then 12 through 22, and then the rest of them on a separate day. All right, this correlates with the notes handout sheet that is on modules in Kami, so you can write along right with it. So let's get rolling. We're going to talk about the structure of a membrane, passive transport, and active transport. Now, passive and active transport are going to be a little later on in a different video. We're going to talk about the structure of a cell membrane or the plasma membrane. Remember, they're both the same exact thing. Okay, the cell membrane is called the gatekeeper. That's a nickname that often accompanies the cell membrane. It's also known as the plasma membrane, like we said. And its role is to act as a gatekeeper, meaning only allowing things in and out that the cell wants in it. Specific substances can pass through and pass out. Not everything gets in the cell membrane, and not everything gets out. So we'll go over how that works. So why is this important? Why is it important to keep things in and out? Well, it isolates the cell's contents from the external environment. All right, so whatever's inside the cell, if the membrane doesn't want it in, it separates it from what's outside the cell. So you can see that would be beneficial. It regulates the exchange of essential substances between the cell and its external environment, meaning the nutrients that it needs, like we did in the ideal cell size lab with a little piece of cube, how the nutrients would penetrate if it needs to, and the smaller the cell, the more beneficial it was to get stuff in and out. It allows communication between the cells too, and you'll see that with cholesterol that we have located on the cell membrane. Here's a little picture of what it looks like up close. All right, so over here we've got protein molecules. This is outside the cell, or called the extracellular fluid. This is the inside of the cell, also called the intracellular fluid. We've got a carbohydrate chain here. We've got protein molecules. We've got another protein channel here. And these things, remember with the heads and the tails, you saw those in our soap poster, right? Phospholipids. We've got the hydrophilic and hydrophobic portions to it. Remember those terms? Well, you're going to see them again. Lipids are called phospholipids. Proteins, carbohydrates. So here are the types of lipids. A review. Triglycerides, tri meaning 3 fatty acid tails, okay? And a glycerol. Forms fats and oils, lipids that we eat. Phospholipids look like this. You see these elements are in there. Nitrogen, phosphorus, oxygen, carbon, hydrogen. CHONP. They're in there. The phospholipids are what compose the cell membrane. All right, so a bunch of these lined up with heads and tails that I showed you in the previous slide. Okay, so here's how they're arranged. The phospholipic head and the hydrophobic tail, hydrophilic head, hydrophobic tail. And you can see that chlorine, phosphate, and glycerol are all located up top here, and the fatty acids are in the chain below. The polar head attracts to water, remember. Hydrophilic means it likes it. And then hydrophobic, oh no, scared. I'm scared of water. Hydrophobic, repelling water. So there are 2 layers of lipids that form the cell membrane. A barrier between 2 watery substances, the cytoplasm, and the extracellular fluid. Now, if you look over here, you've got the heads and you got the tails that face each other. It's important to remember how the cell membrane is laid out for you there. They face each other on the tails. Well, we'll see that again there. It must be important. Polar heads face the watery external environment and the watery cytoplasm. All right? Water, aqueous. Remember, aqueous means water. Down here's water again. Here are the polar heads. The tails of the phospholipids face each other. So the tails face each other. When you hear the term bilayer, it just simply means 2 layers. Remember, bi meaning 2. So if you cut away the section, you're able to see it up close. This is what it would look like. And we're going to create one of these today. So you have to understand that the heads are on the opposite sides and the tails face each other, where the water or the extra and intracellular fluid are located. And the lipid bilayer, meaning 2 layers, are 2 layers of lipids. That's all it's showing you here. All right, you will see proteins in the cell membrane. Look, they're located here. They're located here. They're located here. There's different types of proteins. There's a transport protein, a bonding site, okay, a recognition protein. We're going to get to what they do a little bit later. All right, they're embedded in the bilipid layer, so they're in there. See them there? They are used to transport materials across the cell membrane. So the stuff that can't just flow through here easily, has to go through these kind of channels, these protein channels. So the cell membrane is known as the fluid mosaic model of the cell. Fluid, constantly moving, mosaic, no perfect pattern. Right? You saw those proteins embedded in there. They're embedded in there randomly. Proteins and lipids form patterns or mosaics, meaning you can't repeat them. All right? They're very random patterns. And the animation doesn't work, so we're not going to do that. The carbohydrates of the cell membrane are attached to some of the proteins and lipids, and they act as signal molecules, are there for communication. So on the test, what's the purpose of carbohydrates in the cell membrane? The answer is communication, communication, communication. They allow cells to communicate. It doesn't get any easier than that. Okay, let me move me here to the bottom so you can see. Here they are. All right, carbohydrates there, acting as communications. You should be able to label this if I gave you something like this, because now you know all the parts that are in there. We will pick up next time with getting in and out of the cell. But right now, that was the basic anatomy of the cell membrane. That's all you need for today's activity.